Welcome everybody to another champion concept video. Today we're going to be going over a rework we did for Wukong. As always, if you guys like these videos, please like, subscribe, let us know what champions you guys like to see us do in the future, and we'll get right here into the video. With the new Wukong, we really wanted to give Wukong a brand new identity in this very oversaturated pool of assassins. We wanted to make him stand out as being the anti-AD assassin champion, and you'll kind of see what we're talking about once we get into his kit. A lot of his tools that he was using were very outdated, so we wanted to change a lot of that up to make him have more tools to trick and confuse his opponents, while also having much more reliable movement and engage tools to feel more satisfied when playing this new rendition of Wukong. Also, we're trying out some new mechanics that, if put into League of Legends, would be very fun, and also probably cause a lot of headaches for people who are playing against Wukong. Now, some of the stuff is not currently in League of Legends when the making of this video, so these are very unique to this concept of Wukong, making him feel really free and allowing him to have some different playmaking opportunities in very unique team comps. Wukong's new passive is now called the Shimon diversion, where Wukong gains the ability to manipulate the energy around him, creating after images of himself to trick his foes. Within this effect, every ability Wukong channels will provide him with more energy, capping at a max meter of 2. The second ability Wukong uses will be stored and released after Wukong uses a third and final ability, which will channel an after image of himself performing that stored ability. This passive will have a small cooldown that will range from 6 seconds down to 3 with level scaling. Also, this ability will be directed in the last direction Wukong was facing when casting his third ability. This will give you some slight indication on where the second ability or the charged after image will be facing. This ability will also deal damage. My thought, about 60% of the total damage that current ability would do, and would scale up from there. This may be a little too high, so this is something that we would have to find out if this were implemented into the game, how strong this would be, and then we can buff it or nerf it accordingly. Wukong's new first ability is called Monkey Style, which has a two-part mechanic. The first mechanic, Wukong thrusts his enchanted staff forward, dealing physical damage to all targets. If this skill shot does not hit any enemy champions, this ability will begin to slowly charge for a second portion of Monkey Style. If the first mechanic hits an enemy champion, however, during the charge section now, Wukong will gain bonus attack speed and will spin his staff in front of him, deflecting all forms of basic attacks back towards the original caster. This works for ranged minions and ranged champions. The second part now will activate as a skill shot, very similar to how Yasuo's Q works. Wukong will slam his staff down at a target location, dealing damage to all targets and proccing armor penetration against enemy champions. Wukong's new passive is now called Clone Dexterity, which has a passive and an active effect. The passive effect allows Wukong to be granted passive bonus armor based on the active amount of after images Wukong has up and in proximity, about 625 range of Wukong. Wukong used to have Iron Skin, which granted him both magic resistance and armor, but we're really kind of shredding that down and making it so that Wukong is very effective against AD assassins and just AD burst champions in general. That's why we're kind of switching over to just armor. Now, because of that, his armor amount will be scaling up a lot higher than what it was previously when he was getting both armor and magic resist. I think, I believe it was 4 or 3 per enemy around him. You can kind of scale that up to about 5 or 6 per after image. Now, the active effect, Wukong manifests after images around him, totaling from 3 to 6 depending on the level of this ability. Each after image will path outwards, and it is designed to move very similar to how Wukong would move, so the same speed, the same animations, everything else like that. During the first few seconds, Wukong will be in stealth and gains the ability to reactivate Clone Dexterity as a clickable ability, swapping places with a clone of Wukong's choice. When one of the Wukong clones are damaged, or when Wukong is swapping places with a clone, that clone will then stop and will spin around once, dealing magic damage and slowing targets before vanishing. So very similar to how his old decoy would work, but we're scaling it up, adding more decoys, and having him the ability to be able to blink to a different target, giving him some extra movement ability and just some more diversive trickery that he can actually implement into his combos, implement into his escapes, and into his engages. Wukong's new third ability is called Pole Vault. Wukong will spear his staff into the ground, lifting himself into the air above. Wukong can use pole vaulting to traverse the rift, using this ability to move over walls and obstacles placed in front of him. During the animation, Wukong is untargetable by basic attacks and damaging skill shots, but can still be affected by non-linear crowd control abilities. So for example, Vi's ultimate, which is a click on, is not effective against Wukong. He would be considered untargetable. However, for somebody like Malphite, who uses his ultimate, which is an AoE area attack, this would still hit Wukong. So you can kind of piece this together and compare these and kind of find out what would work against Wukong and what wouldn't. Wukong can also use pole vaulting to leap off of enemy champions, dealing slight physical damage to them, as well as slowing the target for X amount of seconds. The vaulting distance really depends on when you're using it and where you're using it. It can scale from 350 range to 650 range. And this is determined by level, and also if you are leaping off of an enemy champion, which will also increase the range from about 75 range to 145 range. Wukong's new ultimate is now called Staff Cyclone, where Wukong will channel his inner power, creating a whipping cyclone from his whirling staff. The spinning animation will deal consistent physical damage to all targets who are caught inside, and damaging enemy champions will grant bonus movement speed to Wukong, which will scale with the amount of enemies who are affected, or enemy champions that are affected. So this is very similar to how old Wukong Ultimate worked, but now the hidden effect that we added really changes how this ability will work. So the hidden effect, if Wukong uses pole vaulting in sequence with Staff Cyclone, he will activate his ultimate on his descent from pole vaulting, causing a knock-up effect on all targets. Targets who are hit with consistent cyclone damage will be consistently juggled into the air. Yes, consistently juggled into the air for a max total of 4 seconds. If the target is dropped from the knock-up for even 1 second, the juggle will be cancelled, the damage will still persist. So, now instead of it just being able to click R and you knock up targets, there's now a little more skill involved and a little more setup. Kind of similar to how Yasuo has to knock somebody up, or they have to be knocked up for him to be able to channel his ultimate. The reward though is much greater now, because when you knock a target up, if you can keep them inside of the cyclone, they will continuously be knocked up for a total of 4 seconds. This is CC that you cannot buy with any other champion, and really separates Wukong in being this incredibly strong team fighting assassin, and hopefully you guys would enjoy playing something like this. And that will wrap up our rework of Wukong. Like I said, we really wanted to make him feel much different than what he plays now, as well as just giving him extra tools so he can be very useful in other areas of the game. So like I said, let us know what you think, like and subscribe, let us know what champions you guys would like to see us rework in the future, and I'll see you guys in the next video.